I got the tractor beam out of commission, or this is going to be a real short trip. Okay, hit it!
Hey everybody, welcome back to Collector Spotlight. We've got a new one for you tonight. So Juan Fernandez is with us.
Hi guys,
and thank you for being with us. Jason's with us. We're going to talk through Juan's collection of pretty amazing, very unique, interesting. It's one of the most interesting collections I think I've seen in a while, where you have a very unique focus. I mean, everyone likes Vader, right? Everyone loves Vader. I get it. It's not necessarily unique, but like what you have, I think, is very unique, and where you've kind of gone with your collection. So I'm really excited to walk through it. Jason, I think you're the one that set this up, and so we really appreciate that. And Juan, thank you for being with us again. And just so that everyone kind of gets to know you a little bit, Juan, can you talk through maybe like just give us a brief bio on you and like how you started collecting and all that kind of stuff?
well, first of all, thank you guys for the invitation.
Absolutely.
I've seen a few of the episodes, and I'm really blown away by the quality of the collections that you guys have been spotlighting and the interviews that you guys have done. So it's an honor to be here with you guys.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Well, where can I start? I mean, I'm an artist, digital artist. I've done some work for a bunch of comic book companies, Marvel, DC. I've done some toy art for Hasbro, did some stuff for Lucasfilms. And yeah, I started collecting ever since I was a little boy. I think we all have it in our DNA, you know, when we first saw Star Wars and we were like blown away by it. I don't know what it is about Star Wars. We all wanted to have what we were seeing on screen.
Right.
So yeah, as a kid, it was an obsession to get all the toys.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I looked at these images, the more I wanted to get what I was seeing on the screen. So
yeah, for sure.
It all evolved from toys to the bust and the statues.
Juan, real quick, Juan, did you do what a lot of us did? Because I think you mentioned this, but did you do what a lot of us did, where you went from like Black Series to that? Did you have that kind of evolution, or did you how'd it go for you?
Like a little bit of a transitional phase, like the transitional phases as you sort of evolutionize your collection.
Yeah,
I think the Black Series stuff, by the time it started coming out, I was already into like the hardcore props. So I didn't buy any of the what is it called, the Black Series?
Yeah, like just any sort of toys,
like an example,
you know.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is I did start with all the Don Post stuff back in the 90s, in the early 90s. So I remember I was subscribed to the Star Wars Insider magazine. I think we all were at some point. And even before they were selling the big magazine, they had like the smaller Lucasfilm catalogs.
Oh, wow. So we're going a ways back.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
This is great. All right.
91, 92.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the helmets on there, and then right around 95, I think it was, they started releasing images of the Darth Vader Deluxe from Don Post, which was like the gateway drug for a bunch of the hardcore Vader collectors, because that was like the first time a company was releasing anything that had any sort of lineage to a screen use prop. And when we all saw the images of the Deluxe Vader on these catalogs, we were all hooked.
So that was a little before my time. Let me ask, that was that big a deal, right? That was like a huge thing, correct? Yeah.
Oh yeah. When Don Post started releasing the Deluxe line, I think the only two helmets in that run that had like really good lineage were the Boba Fett helmet and the Darth Vader helmet. I think the TIE Fighter came a little later, and it did have some lineage. The Stormtrooper was like a completely new sculpt. Either way, that was like, when we all saw that was like the best next thing to owning the screen use prop. And yeah, from there on, we were all hooked. And little by little, all these. Yeah.
I was gonna say this is the point where he became a full-blown addict. This is when he was hooked.
And just so everyone understands, like, Juan, like you're focus really is Vader and troopers, right? I mean, I would say,
Yeah, no,
right?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. My office is just. I mean, it's weird because the side that you're seeing on the camera right now has like all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But my left hand side and like everything in front of me is just Vader. So,
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, we're gonna go through it, guys. We just wanted to kind of give you a basic idea of okay, where's Juan coming from, if you don't know, and yeah, we're just gonna walk through his collection. I'm really excited here. So let's start with the kind of a wide, which I think is what you were talking about. That's kind of in front of you there. Let's see here. So is this what you're looking at in front of you?
that's on my left hand side.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
You can see my monitors.
Yep. Yeah. I see it.
Oh man, I hate to be stuck in that room. I tell you.
Yeah. It's tough. Yeah, very cool. Very cool one. I'll tell you what, the one shot, I'll jump ahead a little bit because the one shot that I find absolutely amazing, impressive to me is this one right here. This is fantastic. I mean, like you don't when you look at Vader and you think of Vader, you don't think of like really rough looking helmet and all that stuff. You just don't think you think of shiny and all that stuff. So this is it's just so interesting. Can you walk me through some of these here?
Well, yeah, it's funny that you bring that up. A lot of people have the misconception that these props are all like shiny, highly polished, super idealized pieces of work, pieces of art. But the reality is that back in the 70s and the 80s, a lot of these props were put together, in a bit of a rush.
Of course.
This is particularly noticeable in A New Hope stuff. But and film would hide a lot of those details and a lot of the roughness. So a lot of the helmets in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, they do look glossy and polished on screen, but if you take a look at those props up close, you start seeing that they're pretty rough. They do have rough edges. They do have a lot of warts. And what you're seeing in this image is raw castings from what we call the UK mold and the US mold.
Okay.
What you see on the left side and the right side, the darker one, that one that you pointed
right
at
here?
first, that is a Return of the Jedi casting.
Okay.
That particular helmet is the GS. It was offered by Mark Edwards, who everybody knows as CFO. It was supposed to be an open run. There was some issues with the owner of the original helmet, so the run got cut real short. So there's only like 20 copies of that casting. The dome itself is what makes it a Return of the Jedi. Particularly noticeable because of what we call the Widow's Peak, and it's flat.
Oh yeah, I see it. I see it. I see what you're talking about. So Juan, can you look at basically any Vader at this point and be like, yeah, I know where that's. I mean, is that where you're at this point?
Man, I've devoured so much of this for so long that I can look at a helmet and I'm not perfect, but I would say 99% of the time I can tell you where it derives from, who made it. I can even tell you if it's a recast of a helmet that was sold or made by someone else.
That is crazy.
But yeah, that's a Return of the Jedi. On the other side, you got the ESB. If you look at the indentation in the Widow's Peak, it's rounded. It's got it's rounded in, and both of those helmets are UK mold. The UK mold was made during production or close to the end of production, and it's evident because of all the warts and all the damage that you see when you look at it up close. Because it was the UK mold was made during the production of A New Hope.
Yeah.
So the face mask that you see there is as close as you can get to what we saw in A New Hope.
That's cool.
Okay.
No, and real quick, just so everyone in the chat knows, everyone watching the video, maybe even later, if you don't like Vader, you should probably get the hell out of here, because like we're going to be talking about a lot of Vaders. There's a lot of different helmets we're going to be looking at. There will be more later on, but we are talking a lot of Vader. So just be aware of that. I don't want to hear any shit about like why are there so many Vaders. That's the reason we wanted to talk to Juan. So
Well, now that you mentioned that, I should point out that you do see a lot of Vaders in the first image that you showed.
yeah.
Every one of those has a particular reason for being there. It's either a different stage of production from any one of the 3 movies.
Yep.
And on top of that, there's touring helmets, which derive from the movie helmets.
Right.
So those are in there as well.
That's crazy, dude.
One thing I did notice, so looking at all the Vader helmets and having gone through some of the pictures myself earlier, I didn't see Revenge of the Sith. Now, are you particularly sticking to the 3 original?
Yeah. That's it's one of those things I've added pieces to my collection from the newer films, the prequels and the sequels, and even from The Mandalorian. But eventually, I end up selling them because my focus, it's like I do it and then I slap myself in the wrist. Is like, stay focused.
Yeah.
No,
I hear
that's
that.
good.
Yeah, okay. Everything in here is original trilogy.
Okay. Tell me about this guy right here.
Oh well, that's the big boy in campus.
Okay.
That is my ILM direct pull from the Rick Baker mold, from the US mold, basically. And this is probably the least touched copy that came directly from that mold.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's got no alterations. It did have the teeth were trimmed and the shin vent was trimmed. The eyes were also trimmed out, but I added castings from the real lens in there.
So this wasn't used prior to acquiring this. This wasn't used at any point in time in any official capacity?
No, this helmet was made by an ILM artist.
Okay.
He's very well known in the community, but I'm not going to say his name just to protect his identity.
Yep.
But yeah, he was an ILM artist, and he made a copy from the mold, and it made its way to me.
Crazy.
But yeah, this is as close as you're going to get to having anything that was in the movies.
Crazy.
This is what this would be considered a first gen helmet pulled directly from the ILM mold.
Right, that's nuts.
You know what I wonder when I see this, Matt? Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
If somebody like Brian Muir could look at this and
right,
hey, I mean he's the one who did it. So I wonder if he's at the same level, mentally with Juan as being able to spot certain pieces.
That's
but
crazy.
I think after all those years that pass, it gets so convoluted with all the changes.
It does, man. Well, question I have is like the back of the seat, like the inside of the helmet, the back of the helmet, right inside. Mm-hmm. In the movie, was it that messed up as well?
Oh, yeah.
Like it was super rough. You just don't notice it as much, right? You have to get close and really see some light in there, I would imagine.
All these pieces, they're all fiberglass. So when you look at the, anything that's touching the mold will have the details that are on that silicone, but everything on the other side is just rough fiberglass. I was actually watching one of your episodes earlier today, and you guys were talking about the Anovo's Darth Vader.
Yeah.
If you look at the Anovo's Darth Vader, it's got a smooth, clean inside of the dome.
Yeah.
But that's not how the screen used helmets were made. They're actually just rough, raw fiberglass.
So you see the crosshairs of the fiberglass process exposed. Okay.
Oh yeah.
They didn't bother to polish it out. I mean, at the time, like you said, dating back to the original movies plus the budget. I mean, pennies on the dollar, right? I think they had about £1,000 or $1,000 to build Vader, so they made do with what they could. So that leaves you with thinking, details that you're not necessarily going to see, and as you mentioned, film corrects a lot of that. Yeah. You're not going to go in and try to refine all these innate details because it just doesn't make sense, or for time or money. Yeah.
Right. No, if you go back and watch any of the 3 original movies, the inside of the helmet, the back of the dome, you don't really get to see all the way in there.
Yeah.
That comes from the way the seams are lit, the way the film is graded, the coloring, all of that is hidden in shadow. And particularly any scenes where Vader was involved, the lighting was actually pretty dim, pretty dark. So all that detail that you're seeing in the back there, you don't really see that in the movie. And the times that you do see it, you can notice that it's actually pretty rough.
And I think with the paint as well. So with the lighting really helped with masking how poorly or rough the paint job actually was with the brush strokes and the drips and all of that stuff that you normally wouldn't pick up on.
Just so Steve knows what we're talking. Steve, we're talking about, this is a Gen 1 cast of a, I think, is it the Rick Baker mold? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, it's a direct pull from the Rick Baker molds from ILM.
Yeah, pretty amazing. So you're on mute. You're on mute, Steve.
I was saying nice, and it's nice to meet you. It's nice to meet you too, Juan.
Yeah, and Steve, we're talking through this part of this collection here. So let's move on to this. So it's gonna be, I mean, Juan, you're just gonna have to explain what's happening, because I mean, I see Vader after Vader after Vader. You just have to let us know kind of where we are in the collection here.
Well, one of the reasons why you're going to see a bunch of them that you probably look at them and at first glance you're like, oh, it's all the same.
Right.
All of these helmets on the wall, they have some sort of direct lineage to a helmet that was from production or pulled from original molds. And if we go through their names, like for example, the one on screen right now is the TD. When you saw the three that were lined up in the bottom, you got the GS, the SL, and the TM. Those initials, that's one of the biggest questions everyone asks me is like, what do those stand for?
Right.
The initials that distinguish all these Vaders pertain to the owner of the original helmet that this one is cast from.
Oh, wow.
For example, like the TD. The T stands for Thomas. I forget his last name. I always forget his last name. So the D is
that's the reference for the initials. Okay, that's interesting because I see that a lot when I come across pictures of your stuff, whether it be via the RPF or other Facebook groups. And even if they're not asking directly, they're asking one another, like, what does this mean? Or what does JCS? So that's interesting to know that it's a reference of association towards where it originated from. Okay.
Correct. So, for example, like the SL.
Is this it right here, Juan? Diefenbach? Diefenbach? Is that the TD? Is that the last name?
That might be his last name.
He's saying it here, Thomas.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's right.
Okay.
So yeah, that's Thomas, and then the TM is another Thomas. I also forget his last name. There's too many names to keep track of.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, those initials pertain to the owner of the original cast from which it derives.
Interesting. That's so interesting. Okay, and so this one is a what? Where's this one come from here?
That is a TD. What you're seeing right there. That was a super limited run. From what I know, I only know of 4 in existence, and it was only offered. Only the face mask was offered.
Okay.
Now is this Empire Strikes Back?
This particular one, I finished Empire Strikes Back. I own two of the 4 or 5 that I know of. I own 2 of them. This one had flaws in the casting, so I thought it was okay to just give it a little bit of a sand and finish it. And that's what you're seeing right here. I paired it up with I think that's a TM dome. Yeah. So this is from the UK mold.
Okay.
Interesting. I'm noticing. And I haven't noticed before, you can continue, Matt, like going through. So as we're speaking about this, you're right. Initially, I mean, obviously we're a little bit more well-versed, but at the same time, it's kind of like Vader is Vader is Vader. And differentiating between A New Hope and ESB is one thing, but then as we're looking at this, whether it's, a stun cast or an original, you're starting to see the small, subtle differences, which is really interesting.
Yeah. What about this one, Juan?
That one right there, that is a PA. It is. Let me see how I can word it, because there are pieces in the collection that are sensitive as far as the information goes.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and you know,
this one links directly to the Empire Strikes Back stunt helmet.
Okay.
So that's why if you look closely, the cheeks have the acrylics instead of being solid fiberglass, and the whole entire neck is also Perspex acrylic, and that was just for Paul. What's his name? The stuntman, for him to be able to look through the helmet while he's doing the fight scenes.
Oh wow. Yeah, you can see you can see through it right there at the bottom
Mhm,
there.
mhm.
Pretty cool. I love all the cracks in this thing. It's so cool.
Yeah, this
I love
one.
the cheeks. Yeah.
Yeah, this one in particular, the way it's finished, because it was directly linked to the original stunt helmet. It has all the damage post filming. So like the tusks are broken, except as a result of being cast from the original.
Right.
And then a lot of the detail on the dome was painted in the way that the original prop is nowadays. So you have clear gloss, but it's flaked in the middle. So you see the clear gloss on the sides, and in the middle is just the black gloss paint.
That's so cool.
Wow.
And I assume, is this a real
Yeah.
real
Yeah,
I
pack?
had to throw. Sorry, Matt. I had to throw this in there because
No, it's fine.
I'm a fan. I saw it and I'm like, Vader in flames. Gotta go.
Yeah, it's freaking
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, that's one of the original 1978, 79 patches from the production in Norway, was it? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to Norway, yeah.
That one's right here next to me.
Oh, that's killer.
Had it ever been used? Was it like pulled off a coat, or was it just one that was unused, or?
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I don't know. I don't think it was pulled off of a coat, because if usually when they're pulled off the coat, you would
You see the
see,
frame.
you can see that it was
Yeah.
all the thread was in it, but this one's pretty clean. You can
Even
tell
better.
it's old. You can tell it's old, but it's pretty clean. So I don't think it was in any of the coats.
Fantastic.
Juan, tell me about this the bust here in the middle here.
That's a New Hope style bust. The helmet is what's known as the SL. SL stands for Sith Lord, it's the screen name of the owner of the original casting. And what can I say?
What about this section right here? All this stuff is
That armor has lineage to Empire Strikes Back, stunt and Jesus Christ, and touring.
okay.
armor.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yep.
I gotta
So
say, what are your opinions, Steve and Matt, on like the grittiness of these? Something about it looks very appealing, huh?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it were just dirty or if that's the way they're supposed to look. Or
No, yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you're looking at images like the stuff you see on magazines and books and even on film, at the distance that you're filming, you're not going to capture all those minute details. But when you start looking at the original pieces up close, you will see every imperfection, all the warts, all the cracks. And this is something that developed in me, because at the beginning, like I said, I started out with like the Dom Post deluxe stuff, and that's pretty cleaned up. It's got lineage to original props, but they clean that stuff up. So if you look at a Dom Post deluxe, it's smooth surfaces, no warts, no cracks. And I loved it when it came out. But then the more we started getting into digital cameras and people started posting images online and studying the props, and we started seeing all this minute details, all those warts, all those defects that we weren't aware that were there all along. And then you start seeing these helmets pop up. That's when you start going crazy, because all these little details
Of course.
are what tell the story. They're what link it to that prop that you saw on screen.
Well, and they did their job, right? They made they slapped these things together, and then camera department and light department was like, we need this to look good. And so they did their job to make it look good, where you don't really see all the warts and all the insides and all this stuff. And so, but yeah, it is there. That's how it was put together. I mean, look at all the stormtroopers too. They all look like there's a bunch of hunks of plastic running around, but it looks awesome.
They had tape on them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that amazes me how we still perceive stormtroopers as, you know, very shiny and clean, pristine, and they're a mess.
Oh,
They're
totally is.
ratchet and crooked and banged up. But yeah, they did a great job. You're right.
Tell me, Juan, about these boxes here. The chest box.
Same thing. They have lineage to the screen use props. That one you're pointing at right now is cast from Empire Strikes Back chest box. The one on the other side is the Return of the Jedi. But yeah, same thing. It's
do they different? Are they super different, the chest boxes? I mean, I
they,
know the helmet changes, but like,
yeah, if you look, like all the little greeblies, even the edges on them.
The way the buttons are positioned, I think. Right?
Yeah, the buttons there. Yeah.
If you look at, this is the Empire Strikes Back, and if you look at this edge and then compare it to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a significant difference there.
You see how this one's a lot rounder?
Right. Yeah. It's interesting.
When it's pointed out, it's a significant difference. Yeah. When it's not pointed out, it's almost like you don't notice. Yeah.
Right.
You got like all the little greeblies right here. This one was missing the top one. Empire's got the middle greebly. Return of the Jedi doesn't.
Right. Now, I see it.
Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi are similar in terms of like the color palette and the styling, but then if you go to the A New Hope one, then the colors start to change because now you have green instead of the blue.
Right. Okay.
And in A New Hope, it was the actual buttons that they glued on, so they're translucent. So you got the green and the red translucent. The bottoms, the buttons down here, the rocker switches, they don't have black on them.
Okay.
And then you have the white in place of a red. Okay, so there are some pretty big changes. Okay.
The more you know. All right, let's go on here. Let's look at this, guys. This isn't the same one we were looking at, was it?
Yeah, that's the same one.
Oh, it is.
That's just some casting. That's just another angle.
Yeah, I'm sorry, right here. And you said you can see the tusk having broke off there.
You can even see the screw. If you look underneath the tusk tube, you can see the screws that hold the acrylic in place.
Okay,
Gosh, that's crazy. Moving on, this guy.
This image is of an SL that I finished for a client, because that's another thing I haven't mentioned, but I do a lot of commission work for collectors when it comes to Vader. In this case, that's an SL helmet that was sent to me to get finished. So this is my paintwork and my finishes on an SL.
Killer. That's awesome.
You just got 3 new clients. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, how many helmets do you make? Would you say, like, how long does it take you to make to kind of finish a helmet?
It's hard, and I'm very slow because this is not my main job. I have my day job, so I tend to work on prop related stuff during nights and weekends if I have the opportunity to do it. I don't do a lot of it, but I would say I paint anywhere from like 10 to 15 helmets a year. It's not a lot, but
that's awesome. Though. Really cool.
But yeah, it's an honor whenever a client, or a friend trusts me to work on their super expensive castings.
Of course, yeah.
These things are not cheap at all.
Yeah.
That's the same helmet from another angle, just so you can get a better idea of what you're looking at.
It's pretty. It's awesome.
Now the SL, I may totally be wrong on this one, but isn't there 2 versions where they do like a basic and then what they consider like a deluxe?
No, the SL was offered for a few years very quietly from the owner of the original casting that it came from. And I think there was only 25 or 26 of them made over the years.
Okay, so it's very, very limited. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Same helmet from another angle.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it looks really nice. And this is this a full size, like 1:1? Yeah. Yeah,
that's my Vader mannequin.
Killer
display. Yep. So it's got like a TM helmet. It's got the armor is I think that's the Elstree armor they call it. which is linked to the original armor from A New Hope. Which, by the way, a lot of people wonder like how Vader props go from one movie to the other. For the first movie, from what we understand, there was only one helmet finished. There is, I think, Brian Muir is the one that says that there was 3 helmets finished, and that he says that only 2 of them made it on screen. But as you watch the movie, you can tell it's just the one helmet that keeps getting more beat up as you go along.
Mm.
The problem is that the opening scenes with the Tantive, when Vader comes in, those scenes were shot later on in production. So the first time we see the Vader helmet in the movie, he's already starting to get beat up.
Yeah.
But when they do all the close-ups of it, you can already start seeing like scratches, and you can see paint missing and all that stuff. And then as you go on in the movie, the helmet all of a sudden looks cleaner, and it's because those scenes were shot before the Tantive scene.
So it's before little Timmy dropped it.
Crazy.
Well, they used the hell out of it. They had a very limited budget, like you mentioned before, for Vader in this first movie. So they made very limited stuff for A New Hope. And then once Empire Strikes Back came along, what they had was molds of that original helmet and armor and like the shins. And even the chest box, they also made a mold of that. And they took those molds and they made all the Empire Strikes Back parts out of those A New Hope molds. But this time they polished it. The dome had a few changes to it. They made the shin vent a lot wider so that the actor could see better. The chest armor was just painted better. Chest box got a bunch of changes, but it's basically a casting from the A New Hope one.
It's so interesting that they made the vent bigger so you could see through it. I mean, that's like, like you're not looking down.
I think if they didn't, you'd have the actor sort of bending their head forward.
Yeah, for sure.
It's an interesting thing to bring up. When you're wearing it, I don't cosplay, but obviously, like
we've all tried them on. It's okay, Juan.
we put on this stuff, right? So you do have a very limited view downwards. So even though you don't see Vader literally moving his head down a lot, the actor inside, he can like look down and he will see a little bit through that vent just to see where he's walking.
Of course.
Now the thing is, even though they made it a little bigger, it was not that much of an improvement.
That's funny. So what's this guy?
Oh, that's the SL that I told you I finished for one of my clients.
Okay, cool.
That's in progress. I've already cut the eyes out, the teeth, the shin vent, and it's already primered out.
Killer. That's awesome. Let's see. And this.
That's the same helmet. It's already painted, but it doesn't have the tusks or the lens or the grills. So
it's in progress.
Where you're seeing, there you go, and that's the finished piece right there.
That's awesome. That looks great. This guy?
That is TM A New Hope style.
Yeah, it's pretty.
That's another SL. Yeah, another SL from a client. So yeah, it's a lot of Vader helmets.
That's awesome, dude. They look great.
The detail is fantastic. I know.
Dude, I'm sure people are loving these things, right? When you get them to them, I mean, that's fantastic.
I do tend to get a very, very positive response.
Yeah, that's great.
Juan, I'm also noticing a little bit of a variation in the lens colors. Or is that just lighting, or is that by design?
Well, when it comes to lens, people have very different opinions as to what was used in A New Hope. In some scenes, they look very red.
Okay.
But when you look at the real prop nowadays, they look gray and very. One thing that a lot of people don't know, a lot of these lenses are a lot lighter in color than you would think. The thing is, when you put the helmet on, the darkness from inside the helmet doesn't
resonate.
It hides everything in shadow. But yeah, there's some people want them a little redder, so I tend to use redder lens for A New Hope helmets.
Yeah.
And then when you go to Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, they become a little more bronze, a little yellower.
That's
But yeah,
crazy.
that is one of those details that it's nice that you picked up on it because a lot of people have different opinions on it.
Yeah.
This guy.
See, that's
Looks like
the
Vader's
same,
mugshot.
that's the same TD that we saw first. Just another
Okay.
picture of it.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
But you know, as you can see, like if you go back to that image, the reason why I love that picture is if you can put that next to if you put that next to an image from Empire Strikes Back, like it's a dead on.
It's a
Yeah.
mirror image, and I
Dead
noticed
on,
this is what we start seeing
Crazy.
more that like pearlescent color in the gunmetal versus
Mhm.
the okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I do-
the gunmetal's
I
metallic.
do have to say I like the bigger vent.
Yeah.
That's a nice one. If you go back and forth, you can see the differences.
Yeah, I like the bigger vent below his chin. I think
Mhm.
that's
Well, I feel like it lines up better with this part coming down.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
It gives it more of a symmetrical.
Yeah, I
Yep.
like that better. That's interesting.
Wow, it's when you're doing that, not going back and forth. The
Yeah, it's
difference
crazy.
really stand out.
It's crazy.
Yeah, he almost looks mousy in the first one.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
the New Hope paint job. If you go back in the New Hope paint job, you can see like the paint streaks from the gunmetal being brushed on instead of
Yeah,
sprayed.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Is this just a black and white of the same one? One of
That's
the same
in
one?
yeah, that's in a New Hope helmet.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
That is a TM. That is an Empire Strikes Back TM. The TM is very well known for being it's cast from production made Empire Strikes Back helmet. So
Wow.
as you can, that's another one that I'm really proud of. I love the way it looks. I've been in love with the TM helmet.
Pretty. Yeah,
Same
that's cool.
thing. If you put it next to a movie screen grab, it's dead on.
Yeah, that's killer, man. It looks
So-
really good.
Just to give you an idea of how sensitive how sensitive people are to what they're seeing, like the difference between a helmet that is closer in lineage to the originals and like say like the EFX looks very good. Like the differences are so minuscule that we're talking about like 1/16th of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, but all those little changes create like different relationships in the shapes between the dome and how it lines up with the details in the face mask. And that's what makes the helmet look closer to the original. The closer you are in lineage, the closer your dimensions are to the original helmet. When you go into production like Novos or EFX, you've gone down the production line so far that you have to make a few molds. You're
Yeah.
already further out in generations, and you start shrinking. The more generations you have, the more it starts to shrink.
Well, plus you got where they start to idealize the helmet, clean it up, take away the scars and the warts and the bumps, and
Yep.
Okay.
Juan, do you feel like they were faithful in like Rogue One and some of these other you know what I mean? Like did they stay faithful to kind of like as much as you would like or
Well, here's the thing. I love Rogue One. I love that movie, but when it came to Vader, like we were all really excited because we knew he was going to show up. And at the time the movie came out, like you have access to so much that's out there already, so many resources, especially when you're Lucasfilms. We thought that they were going to go super accurate. We thought that they were going to go with like castings from the original helmet, and they didn't. They used new stuff, newer sculpts that were not directly related to the original helmet. Now the thing is, a lot of people will not catch on to this. To the regular viewer, it was Vader. He looked great. He looked badass, obviously. But to the hardcore collectors like myself and my friends, we knew what was going on, and to us, it didn't feel like the original Vader. But it was still good. We liked it.
Yeah. You can look past it, but I get it. I get what you're saying.
It's interesting that you point that out, Juan. I got to say, the more we do some of these collector spotlights where it's a little bit more in depth when we get information like this, I tend to notice that I'm watching the movies a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So I'm not watching it for the enjoyment of the storyline. I'm paying much more attention to the finer details, and I'm sort of bypassing, the story and what you're used to seeing, and you're starting to pinpoint, whether like it's the props or the little smaller things that like you said, differentiate Vader from one movie to the next. Or so yeah. Normally when I saw Rogue One, I didn't notice the difference because I was watching it from a entertainment perspective.
Right.
And when you go back and revisit that, then you say, okay, well, this is not close, this doesn't match, etc. So yeah, that's very interesting.
Well, this is a good question Kunji Club has. Do you think they did that to match the merchandise? Or like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's hard to say.
That's an interesting question, right? Why does Lucasfilm think that they have to go out and use a newer sculpt for any of this? Like, what's the reasoning?
Well, I'll tell you something. We already figured out what casting they use, and the funny thing is that they actually used a fan sculpted casting.
Interesting.
We've seen that a lot.
It was a fan sculpted casting, and it had actually very little lineage to the original props.
That's like using a Zorg head for the CZ3 and Mandalorian. Like, why? Like, why?
Just that's exactly. Yeah.
I have no idea why they did that, but.
Do they need to use a helmet that's maybe more idealized, maybe less imperfections because of the resolution of film these days?
That's interesting.
Well, that's a good point. Could be, but
Steve, you think they'll see more imperfections?
From what I understand, they scanned the helmet that they used was a fan sculpted. That was owned by one of the artists in the production. He brought it in, they scanned it, and they made some modifications, printed it, and that's the prop that you see on screen. Wow. Not sure why they went that direction when they should have had access to like the archives.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, Juan. If they have, this is Lucasfilm. They have direct access to the archives. Why are they stepping outside? If you look at the behind-the-scenes footage for Rise of Skywalker, and they're discussing the Jedi training ball. I know that they made it red or whatever for Rey, but if you look at the details between that and some of the other ones, or even compare it to the original screeners one, it's a master replica mold. You can tell between the spacing. It's so obvious. So it is interesting why they step outside their own purview of what they have access to.
Even for the Mandalorian, they used sideshow castings for a lot of the.
Boba's helmet,
Boba Fett's helmet, and the what's called the Death Squad? Is it the bluer ones, the ones that save him?
Oh yeah.
So all those helmets were cast from sideshow busts. Why would the production use products like mass-produced products like molds for their props? It's weird.
That is an interesting. That would be a great discussion for another time.
You almost think that they don't think anyone's going to care, and so like whatever we can get our hands on fast. Maybe it takes them a while to get the archive stuff to be able to actually use it. So they're like, hey, let's just freaking whatever. Let's just get this thing. It's going to look good.
George, no.
No, that's actually a really good point. I know that the archives, they're very careful with who they let in there, what they let them do with the stuff in there. So I'm sure it has they have limitations. Maybe it is a time sensitive manner where they just got to get the props done and they can't wait for permission to go to the archives and go in there and take pictures or make molds.
Yeah,
so they're like, let's just grab a sideshow helmet, cast it, and that's it. We'll paint it differently.
Odd choices, but yeah.
Yeah, whatever. So what about this guy?
Oh man, that's one that sadly left my collection because it's not original trilogy. But that one was in my collection for a while. That's a Master Eddie V2. He's already done 3 versions of this. This is still my favorite version. Sadly, I let it go. But I love this helmet, man.
Beautiful.
And I love what you did. I love how you added some of the reveal previous. Yeah,
that's me running. That's actually me running out of space.
Just getting creative with the space.
But they kind of go with it, Some revealed parts with the melted one.
I have to say, I've always been a fan of the version 2 as well. Specifically, in the image, I believe it'd be the left husk, the way the wires are sort of knurled around and how perfectly circular the disc is. Whereas I have the version 3, and that one's a lot more. I guess you would just, for lack of a better word, more damaged.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as visibly, clean and precise. But yeah, this is a fantastic piece.
Steve, do you have this?
Yeah, I have the version 1.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes you take what you can find.
Well, yeah. If you don't,
These are hard to come by.
If you don't take the version 1 apart to expose the skull, I think it looks just as good.
Yeah,
it's definitely up to par.
The wiring detail, I don't think is as good.
Same, yeah. I think the same with the version 3. I mean, I think it was intentional by design, but it isn't as good. I can say the same.
Yeah,
but Masseretti did such an amazing job with this one. I mean, you look at it and you would think it's the prop shop version. They look that good, and it's hard to believe that he did this just by using reference images and sculpting it by hand.
I like this better because of the material, better than a 3D print.
I love that it was hand sculpted. I saw some of the on version 3. He shared a number of work in progress pics with me, and seeing the steps of how he just wired and framed everything and built the clay on top. I was just so impressed by that because doing a 3D print is one thing, but hand sculpting every detail is just fantastic. And the weight of it, it's hefty. It's a beautiful piece. It really is.
Plus, how much was the prop shop? Like $4,000? How much did they charge for that?
Masseretti charged 10% of that.
Yeah.
So now we're actually able to get out of some Vader stuff, which is Juan does collect other things. So we are going now into, actually, you know what? I'm going to save this. I don't want to go to that first. I'm going to go to this first. So what do we got here?
That's a Rolls-Royce jet engine flame tube, right?
Yeah.
So the real McCoy we have here, right?
That's a real found part engine piece. So that's that guy right there, I think. Oh wait, that's him right there.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, in the corner.
Look how well the greebles are applied. Now, is this something that you dressed and added onto?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jesus, the connectors that you see going around the edge, those are like old video connectors. Then you got like the scope on the backside. And then the two eyes were 3D printed by a friend of mine. He was very, very kind, and he gifted them to me to finish the piece off. And then the rest of it is just the red acetate in the eyes, and then put a lamp in there, and now you have a cool lamp in your office.
It's killer, man.
Looks amazing.
Really cool.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
And then we're moving on to some more hilt, like some of the hilt stuff that you collect as well. So this is cool. This is like all the original found, like actual found stuff, right?
That was my my random pile.
Yeah.
My random pile cabinet.
So
you
cool,
just got the original camera, Graflex camera with the Graflex attached to it. You got some more Graflex flashes in the back. The one in the middle is a Graflight, which was used for one of the Vader, for this Vader saber.
Yeah.
Is that like the stunt?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I noticed you get like a reed, you get some metal mics, you get some of the glass eyes for the Falmar. Some great pieces there, I gotta say.
Sadly, a lot of that I've also sold.
Mm-hmm.
It's all part of the transition.
It's like, as if you look at my Instagram page, you'll see a lot of stuff that's not here, but it's like the collection's always evolving. The things,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, coming in and out.
The things that I'd never sell is like any Vader Stormtrooper pieces that are linked to original pieces. Those I don't sell those. But if it's something like camera flashes, I'll move them.
Yeah, for sure.
If you can reacquire it again.
Oh, now that's a beast right there. That's the Obi-Wan saber, completely made of real found parts.
It's fantastic.
Nice.
That's one of the most awkward props in the original trilogy, considering the pieces that they used.
Yeah.
So
Jason, it has the hooks.
I was just gonna point that out. I was gonna say, so Juan, we see. Okay, one thing we see a lot is the Obi-Wan found part. That's the one that most try to go to and complete. Now we'll move on to additional images where you have the trifecta, which is beyond impressive. But at the same time, one thing we don't see is the small little hooks where the bubble lens is.
Yeah.
So Matt, can you kind of highlight that? Right
No,
above.
go above.
What
Just go right above it.
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. It almost looks like a little chain link type thing. So you don't see this very often in the found parts, all original found parts Obi-Wan sabers. Can you just discuss that for a quick second?
I mean, one of the things, and it's funny because Steve said something earlier. You take what you can find, right? So when it comes to the Obi-Wan saber, these pieces are so rare and so expensive that people just take what they can find. And then once you have those pieces, they're so expensive, you don't really want to alter them too much. You don't want to damage them. So a lot of times when you see people post their real Obi-Wan part sabers, they're either super clean or you'll see parts that are like super corroded because you take what you can find. I was very fortunate to get some really nice pieces on this hilt, but I like when I make a prop or when I replicate a prop, I want to go as close as possible to what you see on screen.
Right.
And from all the images that I've seen, you had the little screws on the clamp. Here, I'm gonna pull the saber out.
I'd have to say it's probably not the only one, but it's definitely the first time we've seen in all original parts with the actual hooks on it on the show.
I love the weathering on this thing too. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the corrosion with the red.
Yeah, it's just so cool.
The acid burn.
One of the things that I have not changed on this prop because I want to preserve the history of the pieces is that red paint that you see on there, because that was actually original paint that was on this grenade.
Yeah, it's so cool.
I was just pointing out, me and Matt were just saying, I actually really like that. I love that that's exposed.
That's so cool.
Now, one cool thing is that not only do I have the red paint on the grenade, but I also have the red hot
to match.
Yeah.
sink knob.
That's great.
So I thought that was cool.
One thing too, Juan, can you just show the top of what would be considered the emitter? Yeah, so talking about we take what we can find. So this is the original, but what you see a lot of times too in the all original found part Obi-Wan's is the female version, either with not enough of the circular holes in them, and just a little bit of a subtle detail difference. But this one is from top to bottom 100%, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
The only thing on this hilt that is replica part is the little cone insert in there that holds the entire hilt together. That's from Roman's props.
Okay.
But that's just more for the structural integrity of it.
Right. Yeah, because it's held together with a rod that goes from the bottom all the way to the top, and then you screw it. It tightens it, and there you have it.
Fantastic.
But yeah, I went as far as adding the little screws.
Oh, yeah, let's see that. Hold on. Yep.
The slotted screw right there. There's another screw over here that you barely see because it's hidden.
Crazy, man.
That attention to detail makes something like this that much more of a prized possession.
Yeah, that's one of those holy grail pieces.
It is. It really is.
So let's go to this one right here. This is what you were talking about, Jason?
Yeah.
Yes, this is part of it. That so the MPP on this is original, and I think the only thing that may have been, I mean, you can discuss it because this has the blue and red.
Yeah, that is an original MPP flash, but the only thing that on it that had to be changed was the sleeve around the clamp. If you look at it, this was the clear sleeve variant. You can only see the little edges of it.
I see. Yeah, the other ones were the originals gray or very light gray.
No, they're black. The sleeve is
black. Okay.
black, yeah. Now, this particular image was before I finished doing the saber conversion. So you got the finished Obi-Wan in the middle, and then you have the Graflex on top and the MPP on the bottom.
Okay.
It's killer.
Wow.
Shot of your Vaders.
This, I think I was comparing like the real MPP to MPP replicas. In that shot, you can see the clear sleeve on the real MPP compared
Oh, that's
to
right.
the,
Yeah.
Right here.
there it is. Yep, there it is.
Yeah,
You can tell it's
interesting.
clear. And there they are. That's the top one's a real MPP. The middle one is a Park Saber, and then the bottom one is it's a vintage Flash, but it's the Hayland, which is the funny thing
Classic.
is. The funny thing is, from what I understand, the Hayland was actually the higher end Flash, and the MPP was actually counterfeiting the Hayland.
For the use of the camera, you mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. But as it got into notating the accuracy, the MPP far.
Oh, the MPP is what they use for the filming.
Yeah, it's so at this point an MPP versus a Highland is a significant difference in
I love the look of these things when they have like micro flash on them and Graflex written on them, and it's just fantastic. It's
That's
really
another
cool.
one of those things that some people don't remove. It's the micro flash tag on it.
Yep.
A lot of people keep that there, even though we don't see it in the movie. But it's heartbreaking to like damage
That's
such
cool.
a rare piece.
That's so cool. And then this is another picture of what we were talking about right before.
Yeah, that's the three hilts finished.
That's so cool. Jason dropped off here. Hold on, bringing him back in.
Sorry, guys.
You all right, Jay?
Yeah, it's gonna adjust my camera.
No, no worries.
All right, we got it. Rocket and rolling.
Man, this thing is just beautiful, isn't it?
This is one picture that I've not this picture specifically, but just the three of them together, all original. Yeah, that's I don't know, Juan. That's
it shows you though how so strange looking Obi-Wan's hilt is.
Yeah.
Compared to everyone. I mean, it's so interesting what they went with. So really cool.
And the fact that it works, Matt, it just, I mean, I know we don't know any better because we're so used to it,
right?
But it's like peanut butter and jelly, it just fits together so perfectly.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. The way the way they all fit, all the pieces fit, and it makes it look like an actual instrument.
So now, Juan, looking at some of these, and I didn't want to pinpoint it out when we were looking at the three Vaders on display because the image was partially cut at the bottom. But I noticed you had a resin cast, and you also have one here. Now, these are of the actual production.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, those were limited runs in the RPF. This right there, you see the Luke Return of the Jedi Hero cast, which was from ILM. I believe it was from ILM casting.
We're talking about this one, or are we talking about
the resin one?
All the way back, the white.
Yep. And then the same thing for the Vader. They in the RPF, someone else did a run of the. This is from an. This is so funny. This is from an Energizer commercial. They
that's the bunny version. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah.
Oh, it's so interesting.
So that's a good thing to point out, Juan. I mean, not to go down a tangent and hilts just because there was so much to cover here, but the variations when you hear things like that, just like the TD, the JCS, the SL, when we're talking about the Vader helmets. So when you hear like the bunny or the Gary Kurtz or the stunt or the reflect, these are all the variations of sabers that we use, whether they came from they originated from a commercial or from stunt use or etc. Okay.
Interesting.
So that's
okay.
I'll say this. I'm not super knowledgeable when it comes to the Luke Skywalker sabers, but I do that. But that right there is like my collection of what they call the thin neck sabers.
Yeah. Really cool. What's going on with this one right here?
Well, that is okay. So the history behind that one is that for Return of the Jedi, everyone knows it as the V2, which is the one next to it.
Right.
But what the V2 originally was Obi-Wan's stunt saber in A New Hope. They just repurposed it. So that what you're seeing right there has got the red switch in the bottom and the cable coming out for the electric cables.
It's so cool.
That's pretty much the way the saber was in A New Hope.
This would have been hidden and allowed for the blade to spin as they were. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a unique piece. That's interesting. I like seeing that.
What do you got here?
All right, I gotta blow my screen up on this because these are fantastic.
Oh yeah, those are the E11s. The top one is A New Hope. It's made from a real Sterling rifle. Most of it real parts, like the tank scope, the electric counter, the what do you call it, that little box? I forget the name.
I always mess up on the pronunciation of it, but yeah.
I think the only thing that's a replica on there is the T-tracks and the two cylinders, the two little cylinders on top of the magazine.
Oh, the metal mics there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one in the middle is what's called the Pugman, which is cast from an original stunt Empire Strikes Back blaster.
Yep.
Now, didn't this one, when it originally started, I don't know what the run was or what the edition was or how many or who made it, but I think this one was being scrutinized heavily and catching a lot of slack originally, right?
Jesus.
It was going back quite a few years. I was doing some research, and I just remember.
I got to go back and do my research on it. All I know is that this one that I have here was from the Pugman run, the original run, and I know that RS offers a casting of it. I don't know what they offer is from the original one or if it's they got permission to cast it. But yeah, it's from Empire Strikes Back.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
the
then
bottom?
the difference, yeah.
The bottom is the Return of the Jedi E11, made from a real MGC model gun, which is what they use for filming. This one, the greeblies on this ones were pretty hard to find, the real ones. So most of the greeblies on that one are 3D printed, except for the scope.
Do you know they originate from one, the greeblies on the side of the blaster in the back?
You mean the two on the back, on the side?
Yeah, they from like a model kit, or I mean, they're not something from like a weapon, right? I always wondered.
I think they're hammers for a gun.
Oh, okay.
Problem is they're like tilted forward, but yeah, they're hammers for a gun, and I think they were from a model gun, not a real gun.
Interesting.
You're talking about these guys right here?
Yeah.
I was always curious. I see them all the time, and I just never knew. It was just something I was curious about.
Are the pins filed off of them, or are they intact? Because a hammer for a gun you would think they would have a pin where it strikes the primer.
These are 3D printed, so I wouldn't know. And I'm pretty sure that the ones you see on film they're probably resin cast from a real one. So
they can duplicate many times. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
No, this is part of the learning process too. This is how we learn as we go along, just as a community and as a group.
That's a Greedo blaster.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that was in my collection for a long time, and I sold it last year.
It's beautiful.
Is this now this been updated to the McClunky blaster? I'm kidding.
It's really cool.
It is. Again, more detail that you just don't see. Such passive detail when you're watching the movie, but you have the piece there, and it's just beautiful work.
The Return of the Jedi Boba Fett helmet.
Yeah,
that particular one, the casting came from Minute Fett. I don't know if you guys have heard of him.
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah.
It was painted by him as well. That one left the collection because Boba Fett is one that I'm gonna try to redo. Like I had a bunch of Boba Fett helmets, but now that we've got the castings with lineage to the original one, I'm redoing my Boba Fett stuff.
Okay.
Nice.
Killer. Let me go back to this image because this shows kind of a wider shot of. So this is your kind of stormtrooper side, yeah?
Yeah, that whole side has changed so much in my office right now. But yeah, that was my stormtrooper side. All of them have lineage to screen used helmets. A lot of them are RS. CFO, who did the Return of the Jedi ones and the Empire Strikes Back MK2. And then on the bottom there, you see 3 raw helmets. The 2 on the sides are cast from Screen News Return of the Jedi helmet.
Wow.
And,
Okay.
and then the one in the middle is the set for stunt casting.
You're talking about this one?
Yep.
Okay. So the 2 sides. Okay, I got you.
So,
Yeah,
so
those-
the troopers sort of follow the same pattern as Vader as you go through all the movies. There were variations, some intentional and by design, some because budgets increased and resources became better. But again, when you're watching the movies, not a significant difference are very noticeable. Maybe in Return of the Jedi, but here, when they're grouped together, you can really, they stand out quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at the ones that have a lot of lighting on them, I think if you go to the next image that you have under that one, there, like those 3 on top, those are like what I call my prime examples of like each movie. Like in the middle, you have a RS HDPE from the first run as my A New Hope. Next to it, you have the Empire Strikes Back from RS, which was just, if you watch the movies for Empire Strikes Back, they just repainted some of the A New Hope helmets. And then if you look at the other side, you got from CFO, you got the Return of the Jedi.
They're so weird. They're so weird looking. I tell you what.
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot. One where it seems like when you're taking into consideration what we talked about at the beginning, budget and restraints and limitations, as things improve, for some reason, Return of the Jedi looks like it should have been the first.
It should have. Yeah, it's crazy.
And then the other one sort of evolutionized to much, more refined, but it kind of went backwards. It's an interesting thing.
I think it's a mixture of number one, the molds that they used had collapsed, so the mold was damaged in Return of the Jedi, which is why if you look at it, it's kind of squashed from one side. And the other thing is they had to make so many of them for Return of the Jedi that I think the process was just more rushed. Let's just get them out.
So just get because of this. All right. So that's something I didn't know, but that it explains why and makes more sense.
That's killer.
It is.
RS Scout.
This image. I remember coming across this quite a while back, and seeing that you had that original art plus a signed image. It actually trumped the helmet for me. That's just amazing.
I do this weird thing where when I get obsessed with a prop, I want to add as much as I can to the one piece. So I've always loved the Scout Troopers, but I always felt like no one had done a helmet that did justice to what we saw on the screen. And then RS came out with the cast from original one. Right. And obviously I had to get that. Once the helmet was here, I think the prop store, it was a prop store that had the auction for Nilo Rodis art for the Scout Trooper. Well, they had a bunch of Nilo Rodis art. And I saw the Scout Trooper and I had to get it to add it to the ensemble. Then I got the picture of them with the in production. You can see that they're working on the Scout helmets signed by the Nilo Rodis. And as I go on, I've gotten more pieces.
That artwork, though. Wow.
Like the actual gloves that were used for filming. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Now this one's I've already altered. Like I did the tinting of the leather here, the suede. Cut
so the original glove has more of like a beige suede, right?
And here's my unaltered one.
Ah, okay.
This is originally how it was.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Dude, that's so cool.
That really is.
That's so cool. Okay, so moving along here, we've got an AT-AT helmet. Who made this guy?
That's from Dan Laws. Bar none, some of the best AT-AT helmets and TIE fighter pilot helmets out there.
Yep. He goes nuts on these Greeblies, doesn't he? Doesn't he take him forever to find these freaking Greeblies and put all this together?
I think a lot of the helmets that I've seen have the replica Greeblies, but they're
They're spot on.
Beautiful.
Did
They
you-
look amazing.
Juan, did you have to put this together yourself when you bought it, or did he?
Yeah, this one I bought as a kit, so
Okay.
everything you're seeing is painted by me and
Okay.
put together by me. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's move on. So we've got a Mandalorian.
Mando, yeah, that was the first Mandalorian helmet that I got. That one's from Minute Fat. But the funny thing is, I've had a few Mandalorian helmets in my collection that I've moved.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because, like I said, focus on original trilogy.
No,
So I
yeah,
think-
for sure. Do you have any that you kind of tend to that you've liked more versus another one, or for the Mandos?
Well, the Anovos and the
yeah,
and
EFX.
yes, those are the two that
Yeah.
like it's hard to beat them. But
Yeah.
I will say this: the Mandalorian helmet is the one helmet that I've seen fans knock it out of the park the best.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
Fans have come up with some amazing sculpts, some 3D prints.
Yeah.
The products are beautiful. But yeah, if you want close to lineage, you go Anovos or
Yeah,
EFX.
I got you.
Did you have a preference between one or the other? Do you know? Because there was some subtle differences, I think, and I could be completely wrong on this. Correct me if you know. If not, so I think that the EFX was potentially based off one of the screen used in Anovos that they used like a stunt version. But because of those subtle differences, did you have a preference? Because a lot of people bought both, decided, and then passed on the one that they didn't like. Did you have one that you liked over the other?
Well, for some reason I preferred the Anovos. I don't know what it was about it. It was a little bigger, just very minute, but
Yeah, it's the same one, right?
a little bigger, but it was cleaner on top. I think the EFX had that weird wiggly detail on the very top.
Hmm.
Well, that's right, the lines. And I think the Novus was a little bit more streamlined here with the visor comes
Yeah.
down.
Now, I will say this, out of the box, the Anovos for sure. But the EFX with a new paint job, yeah, it's killer.
Yeah. What about this guy? Is this the same one we were looking at before?
No, that's Empire Strikes Back. That's FPH2
Okay.
helmet.
Okay.
Wow.
Does this have the real?
At this point, it still had a resin Borden, but
Borden,
I've since replaced it for a real
Okay.
one.
Okay.
And it looks like on the range you do have, is that an original XS70, the Polaroid finder?
At the time of this picture, it was not an original one, but it's been replaced already.
Okay, wow. Pretty close though for
Yeah, it's a good guess.
for a placeholder, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, killer. This guy, RS.
The RS Hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Beautiful. I think it's the only
This
Hero.
is gorgeous.
It's the only Hero helmet with lineage to the original ones. Yep.
Yeah, it's
And
beautiful.
the bubble lenses and everything, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very hard to beat this.
It's interesting. There's never a video we do that RS doesn't come up, and that just speaks volumes to their work.
It does. Well, and honestly, it speaks volumes that someone like Juan that's super concerned about lineage and accuracy and all that stuff. To have RS pieces, that says a lot, right?
It really does. When you're that disciplined of a collector,
Right.
and you probably invest more time. I can't say that the money is invested, but time is equal to money in this type of collection. Yeah, putting RS in there definitely speaks to the work itself.
No, it's what they've done is absolutely beautiful. Because to think that a group of people would give access to the entire community to cast things that are that close to the original
right.
props, that's unheard of. You know how this hobby can be. A lot of hush-hush, a lot of secrets, limited runs,
Yeah, of course.
and they come out and they offer it openly to everyone. It's a great thing that they've done for the hobby.
Yeah, I agree. This guy?
Same thing. That's a RS HDP A New Hope helmet from their second run.
Yeah, killer.
But the mannequin is a Novos. It's an Anovos armor with an RS HDP helmet.
Okay, yeah.
That's the one hiding among the Vaders.
Yeah. It's cool though. I like it. And then this is a black and white of your boba. I don't know if we have another shot of your boba.
This one, yeah, I'm not sure if we may have another shot, but just a quick brief description on why it has the eyes and things for people who might not know?
Oh yeah, the pre-production paintwork. Originally there was, I think it was 6 Boba Fett helmets, and they all have different paint jobs on them. This is what they call the pre-production 2, I believe. They call it the eyes. The original design view. If you look at some of the Macquarie paintings and sketches for Boba Fett, some of them had these eyes painted on them. So this was their interpretation of the concept sketches.
Yeah, that's cool.
They painted over them, and they painted them more like ears, and you can still see where the original ones were. But
So I saw that it almost has an effect where you can see where the eyes are almost like erased. Like there's still like a remnant left behind, and then you're missing the eyeball or pupil as you would, and then you see it looks like you said more like ears, or that's really interesting.
This one doesn't. They didn't have the dent at this point. Still, it was after they stopped the eye thing, so they added the dent on the helmet.
Is this RS tie?
That tie is from Faraway Creations.
Okay.
They do some amazing stuff. It's mostly fan sculpts, but the interesting thing that was not revealed, but that kind of like spread around the media, is that they were actually hired or subcontracted for Rogue One. So they did a lot of the Rogue One stuff that you see on
screen.
Like
the Death Star gunner, correct? Right.
The gunner. They did. I think they did the Rebel Trooper helmets, and they did the TIE fighters as well. I think.
Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. And there was some subtle changes too. I think one thing that I did like, actually, even though it's not true to the original trilogy, in Rogue One, the Death Star gunner, the resin pieces, the blue and red, they actually added the lights in them. So I found that interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then moving down, we've got. Let me see here. We've got this guy.
Oh yeah, the Yoda. That's from what's his name? Philip? Phil?
Okay. Who's he looking at? Jason? Where is he looking? Where's the stick? Dude, that's crazy, man.
That looks great. It does.
It looks great. It looks really good. Really like it. And this was interesting. So what's going on here?
Oh, that's the infamous Boba Fett hero casting. Had a lot of drama a few years back.
So sweet.
Because it was leaked and it was recasted. So
okay.
This is actually what, I don't know if we should get into this topic, but this was that whole Geno ordeal where
I got you. Yep.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be what EFX was going to use for their Legend Edition, and it got into the hands of other collectors before EFX released it, and now And now RS got,
Now that's what became what we see today is Now, one thing to point out, though, Juan, for people who might not know, where this looks like it's heavily handled or soiled or dirty, what we're actually seeing is the imprintation casts of some of the paint in detail, correct?
All of it, yeah. Everything, all those little details you see on it is the paint job that Joe Johnston did on the original helmet.
Nice.
One of the beauties of casting with silicone is that it will catch all of these minute imperfections.
The tape hole.
In fact, if you look at the forehead and you see like the difference in colors, that's not actual it is physical detail, but that's just like a different texture, which is reflecting light differently.
So that's why the light is.
That's how small of the detail that the silicone will actually.
I love the color of it. The color came out. It's freaking awesome.
It is amazing. Yeah.
It really is cool.
Yeah, that's a beautiful piece. And yet another piece that RS is offering to the masses.
Yeah,
amazing. This is a piece that I think we both talked about this, Matt, right? Potentially adding this. Well,
the actual cast. Yeah, I thought about it. Yeah, I thought about it.
That's one of the cool things about the raw castings, because from what I understand, you guys already got the RS Boba Fett helmets, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And they're already painted, and that looks amazing as it is. But there's something about the raw, unpainted, as it comes out of the mold piece. Like you can just see all the little fine little details on it.
Crazy, Steve. Why not
No,
both?
I'm telling you.
Yeah, absolutely. Both is the way to go if you can.
We'll be shooting some techs off tomorrow.
Exactly.
Oh,
What is going on here?
that's my ILM lamp. that's a studio light from ILM.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how far back that model goes. I bought it. I want to say I bought it like 2 years ago from a collector named Bill McBride. He's also another Vader freak.
Oh,
He's got. He was actually getting rid of a few pieces, and this is one of the things I got from him.
Yeah,
but yeah,
Walt Richardson goes back a ways for sure.
but that particular model, I mean, obviously came from ILM. We just don't know how far back it was used.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
it's because they once Star Wars, finished production and wrapped, and they started, building up Industrial Light and Magic. I mean, that's the original logo that they.
Mhm.
They hand sprayed that on, so
Mhm.
that's what's fantastic. Yeah, that's great.
That's so cool. And this is a quick shot just for everyone to see that you do collect other things, Juan. You do have other interests, and you've kind of, you've gotten some other pieces that, because you, like you said, you're kind of going into more of this, like, what's it called?
Transition, evolution.
Of getting actual pieces from movies. So,
yeah, that's the side that had all the stormtroopers in that brown. So that's what that side looks like now.
Oh, crazy. Okay.
Where's the I think it's an Australopithecine skull on the bottom.
Oh yeah, the skull. It's from Gorillas in the Mist. So
so it's just a regular. It's a gorilla. It's a modern day gorilla.
I don't know. I don't know if those were the skulls were made by Rick Baker, but everything that you see in that square down there is related to Rick Baker. Like you got a stunt mask for one of the Who's from Whoville and the Grinch, and you got the baby gorillas from Gorillas in the Mist, and then you got the metal hand from Greystoke.
What's the 7 ball there?
Oh, that's that's a screen used pool ball from Django Unchained.
Oh, really?
When they first go meet Leonardo DiCaprio, there's that clean pool back there. That's one of the pool balls from that scene.
Dude, that's funny, man. It's crazy that people can pull anything from a scene and be like, "Here, we're gonna sell this." Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy business. The screen use stuff.
Dude, this is killer here, right here. This freaking Maverick
Starship Troopers
helmet.
Starship Troopers. What is it? Maverick, right?
Yeah, Maverick helmet.
But that Maverick helmet is not screen used. I posted this picture today, and I got a lot of questions about whether or not that Maverick helmet was screen used.
For sure.
It's not. It's made from like real found parts. So like all of that's like the actual stuff that they would have used for the movie, but it's not the screen used one. What's that?
I was just gonna say I would prefer the Starship Troopers helmet over the Maverick helmet any day. To be honest,
didn't they just sell the Maverick helmet in a?
Actually,
right?
Actually, didn't that auction have both those things in it? Starship Troopers stuff and Top Gun stuff.
Yeah.
That was the most recent auction that we filmed. Yeah. Now, are those the Persians from 300? One?
Those are the Immortals from 300.
The Immortals, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, so the darker one is a stunt, and then the more silvery one is a hero.
What's this blue thing coming out of his mouth?
Oh, I don't know what that is. That
might just be like a drawing or something that you like, something you put on it. I don't know.
I don't think that's in the original file. That might have been like a.
That could have transferred over when we were sharing the images, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just a.
I was like, looks like he's sucking on a straw.
It's on the craft table.
Exactly.
Protection using the craft table.
Exactly. No, that's really cool, Juan. Again, I really appreciate you walking us through kind of what you collect and what you enjoy, and just seeing a different, very unique. I mean, obviously there wasn't any hot toys, there wasn't any statues. It's really interesting to see something that is very, very
I don't know if you
focused.
can see it. There's some hot toys up there.
Oh, there you go.
Everybody.
No, but I just think your collection is really unique and interesting. So I really appreciate you walking us through it.
Thank you. I'm sorry if it was boring to go over all the Vader stuff, but
No, get out of here, dude.
No, I think sometimes one that's some of the best stuff because again, it's a learning process for all of us. And I mean, I can imagine you're still learning to this day as you continue to collect and you know, new things like you said, you know, come up and you start to compare and contrast. So I mean, that's what makes the love and passion for this hobby so interesting and so intriguing. And I think that's what connects us all.
And just remember, if it's boring, people don't have to watch this. They can go somewhere else. So like we you know, this is supposed to be.
Matter of fact, most people do go somewhere else.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's go wherever you want to go. But yeah, I think the Vader stuff's just so interesting and really I love the differences, the subtle differences and everything, and very educational as well. Juan, so I appreciate that.
No, thank you guys for inviting me. It's you can tell I love sharing this stuff and like going over all the details. We could go on and on and on if we go through every helmet, but
yeah,
that would get really boring.
that's kind of crazy. No, man, I thank you for your time, Juan. You know, we're obviously everyone in the chat, everyone watching, we're gonna be doing more of these collector spotlights. They're really fun, really interesting. It's great to see other people's just the way other people collect Star Wars and think about Star Wars and just a really
like I was telling you before we started the live stream, I'm really blown away every time you guys do a spotlight, seeing everyone else's collections. I can see how everyone's got like different focuses. You can tell, you know, I have limited space, so I try to accommodate as much as possible in my office. But I'm an artist, so the way I display my stuff is like very rudimentary. I make my own stands, and I just want to have them on the wall, kind of like an archive.
That's.
But then I see other guys with their displays, and they're just mind blowing how beautiful they display their stuff, and all the thought they put into how everything is displayed. And it's amazing, and it's so good that you guys are doing this. There's a lot to learn. You know, you can watch a video and learn about Vader, but you can also watch a video like I've been watching all your videos and learn about all this hot toy stuff that are coming out and and all the stuff from RS. So
even talking about like, you know, lighting and, you know, how to light it, how to display it, you know, vintage stuff. I mean, just covering it, you know, just broad spectrum. You know, and for our own knowledge as well, because as we go through it, we learn things, and it actually contributes to our collection changing and growing and whatnot. I think before we got together and started doing this, and in such a short time, our collections have changed significantly. I think we can all say that. So yeah, it is. It's fantastic, and thank you so much for taking the time to share. You know, it's definitely much appreciated.
No, thank you guys for the invitation.
Absolutely, and everyone watching will be back obviously this Friday with a group therapy. We'll be doing some more of these spotlights, so keep an eye out for that. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Just hang on a second.